All right, so before we get into the next segment, I just like to take the time to announce our new partnership with Sharp Sports Betting. Sharps is a sports betting network used for sports bettors all around the world. Sharps connects with all major sports books, including DraftKings, FanDuel, and BetMGM. Sharps allows you to track what your friends are currently betting. If you like a bet, if you see what a friend has betted, you can go ahead and bet what your friend is doing. You can click the dolphin icon and play what your friends are betting. Sharps also allows you to see your win-loss record. If you're going on a hot streak, you can see it. If you're going on a win streak, you can see it. If you're going on a losing streak, you can see it. You can see your win. You can actually see your win percentage rate and your parlays playing with Sharps. Sharps also offers transparency. Download Sharps today and get started playing it's best used for all sports bettors around the world. You can find the app on you can find Sharps on Apple Store. They are coming out on Android devices, so be on the lookout for that if you are an Android user out there watching or listening. But Sharps is our new partnership, and I am excited to partner with Sharps. But getting on to the next segment, I'll be sharing my fight prediction for this weekend's fight in the UFC. We will be seeing Kamaru Usman versus Khamzat Chimaev on the UFC 294 co-main event. So, I have never said this in my life. Being a former athlete, I've always feared injury. And injuries are always a bad thing in sports and in the sports world in general. But injuries have actually made the UFC 294 card better. Much, much better. Adding the addition of Kamaru Usman to the co-main event is a huge plus for Dana White and the UFC for UFC 294. Kamaru Usman will now fight Khamzat Chimaev on a 10-day notice in a huge middleweight fight taking place in the UFC. So my storylines heading into this fight: Kamaru Usman. Kamaru Usman deserves a lot of credit. He deserves his flowers for stepping in on a 10-day notice to make his UFC return after losing two championship welterweight fights to Leon Edwards. The first time, of course, late in 2022 when he lost the welterweight title, and then in March earlier this year, failing to regain the welterweight title against Leon Edwards in the rematch. And then you look at Khamzat Chimaev. He's looking to remain undefeated in MMA and in the UFC. And he's one of the best. He's one of the hottest fighters right now in the UFC right now in this middleweight division. Things are about to get interesting for Khamzat Chimaev because he has a huge chest against one of the best fighters that the UFC has ever seen in Kamaru Usman. The winner, and this fight has huge replications on the undercard because the winner of this fight, according to Dana White, and he said this in the beginning of the week. According to Dana White, the winner of this fight on the co-main event will be getting a middleweight championship fight against new middleweight champion Sean Strickland, according to Dana White. So that even makes this fight even more bigger for this weekend between Kamaru Usman and Khamzat Chimaev. But my tale of the tape: Kamaru Usman, he's 20-3. Had one of the greatest UFC title runs in UFC history when he took over the welterweight division. And after he beat Tyron Woodley back in 2019, he never looked back and went on one of the greatest UFC world title runs in UFC history. And that title run had some significance to it because he held the title for a total of 1,267 days. Kamaru Usman stands at 6 feet tall and has a reach advantage of 76 inches. Then you have Khamzat Chimaev. He is currently 12-0, and he's one of the hottest rising stars in the UFC. He stands at 6'2" and has a reach advantage of 75 inches. Woo, man. So when you think about that, the height advantage goes to Khamzat Chimaev, but the reach advantage goes to Kamaru Usman. So I'm very interested in that. Those height and reach advantages always speak volumes to me in combat sports. Something that I always think could be a key factor in all across combat sports. But key factors heading into this fight. Kamaru Usman is moving up to the middleweight division, a new division. After he took over the welterweight division and dominated that division for several years, Kamaru Usman is back in a new division, at the middleweight division. He's moving up a weight class. And at 36 years old, is the wear and tear catching up to Kamaru Usman. Like I just said, he dominated the welterweight division, but had several wars in the welterweight division. Holding that title for 1,267 days is not easy. That wear and tear has caught up to Kamaru Usman. Could it? We could potentially see it in Saturday's fight. And my question for Khamzat Chimaev, are you prepared for a caliber fighter like Kamaru Usman? Because he was preparing for Paulo Costa. And unfortunately, Paulo Costa got injured. And this is the reason why Kamaru Usman stepped in on late notice for the co-main event. So is Khamzat Chimaev able to adjust and adapt to fighting a guy like Paulo Costa? Not taking anything away from him, but he's not the caliber fighter that Kamaru Usman is. Will he be prepared mentally and physically to take on an all-time great on a 10-day notice? But with that being said, I do believe that this fight there's a lot. This is a 50-50 fight. And credit to Dana White, credit to the UFC for putting this together at the last second. But with that being said, I'm going with Kamaru Usman to win this fight by a split decision. And the reason why is Kamaru Usman is going to use his championship experience in this fight. I do believe his championship experience in the UFC, his knowledge and his wisdom will help him win this fight against Khamzat Chimaev. Using his IQ and his patience against Khamzat Chimaev is going to be the keys to victory to win this fight. And I do believe that Khamzat Chimaev, there's something that has not been tested thus far in his UFC career, starting off at 12-0. And that is his cardiovascular endurance late in fights. We have yet to see that tested thus far in his UFC career. And it's going to be tested in a grueling 3-round fight with Kamaru Usman. And I do believe this will set up for Kamaru Usman landing a lot of kicks, being patient, him finding his flow and the rhythm in the fight, landing a lot of kicks. That's his bread and butter. And I do believe he's going to use his grappling skills against Chimaev. I do believe that Kamaru Usman will not lose 3 fights in a row. He's on a 2-fight losing streak, losing 2 to Leon Edwards, and currently is the underdog. Bet on Sharps, Sports Betting Network, and bet that Kamaru Usman, the underdog, pulls off the victory against Chimaev this weekend in the UFC. I cannot see him losing 3 fights in a row. I have to see Kamaru Usman get back to winning ways. I do believe he pulls it off. That is my fight prediction for this weekend's fight between Kamaru Usman and Khamzat Chimaev.